thank you, Don, for putting this on. I go to a lot of events, and this is a pretty small event, but it is rich with content and great people. And I got to say, NEPA, you guys are awesome. I'm a Delco boy, so I apologize if I curse and my language isn't good, but, and I live in San Diego now, but I do own one of these big properties, and I bought it on September 30th of last year, and man, NEPA, you guys have just been so heartwarming, so welcoming, so supportive. And I have worked very hard to find the opportunities in my life, but I come here and I'm just having a wonderful conversation after wonderful conversation, and some of which you'll hear today. So by show of hands, so I know how to kind of curate some of the stories in this, do we have academia here? Is academia present? Raise your hand if academia is present. Okay, there's a couple. How about industry and entrepreneurs? Okay, we got a lot more of them. Any students? Students? All right, rock on. You guys are the future. Everything depends on you guys. No pressure. Bringing a new vision of aerospace to NEPA sounds fantastic in the true sense of the word. Sounds almost unbelievable. And when I came here, I was told, actually I think it was Don, no it wasn't Don, it was a guy named Larry, who said some people in NEPA have an identity crisis. They still see themselves as a coal mining town. They haven't yet seen the fertile ground that has been created here. And fertile ground is like my key term for NEPA. You guys are just so generous and it's so capable of becoming something awesome. So bringing a new aerospace vision to NEPA is going to take a lot of work. There is aerospace here. You're good at manufacturing. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that is not actually what even we need as an aerospace company when we try to hire people. So what we're going to walk through here is what I believe are humanity's greatest opportunities. Not just NEPA, but humanity's greatest opportunities. If I were to sum up my response to the last conversation that was fantastic in that other room, that was really cool. Our education is focused on telling us what to think, and we're measured. Our kids are measured by what to think. They're not told how to think. And I think Rodney was getting to that in his last comments. We need to teach people how to think. Because when Bree introduces, oh, there's this guy that's going to talk about how to provide all of humanity access to deep space and infinite resources, most people are like, holy shit, that's unbelievable. But it shouldn't be. It should be a common practice that all of us go through. The students here can think in this way, and when we engage in them, they're solving these big, massive problems. We don't need another fintech app. Like, if you're going to do it just to make money, okay, do that, make money, and then go serve and do something big and solve a big problem. So we'll go through some of that. We'll talk about why now, and how we are actually going to be implementing this in NEPA. And I'm hoping, my objective is that you leave inspired, hopefully entertained, and hopefully that's not it. Hopefully you figure that you can actually take some action. If you're interested in space, great, talk to me. If you're interested in any of these other things, take action. That's the difference. If you're just being entertained with new information, it's infotainment. Nothing happens, you'll leave here and that's great. We need action. So, synthetic biology, AI, and aerospace. Synthetic biology, we're actually seeing this beautiful movement of the digitization of the human body. And we'll dive into a couple things there, which I think, even though I'm in aerospace, I actually think synthetic biology is the greatest opportunity for humanity, and it impacts AI as well as aerospace. Artificial intelligence is about augmenting humanity, augmenting our human intelligence. Even if we go down the path of the singularity and thinking that there's going to be a super intelligence, and I enjoy lots of those science fiction books like some of you may, it's still an amazing tool to be used and built upon. Again, going back to what Rodney said, we may not talk about ChatGPT in the next few weeks, but we will absolutely be talking about AI for the next several decades. And another education thing, the reason our education has been so rigid is because it's been limited in the physical. Imagine if my kids, who are 1.5 and 5, imagine that they have a personal AI who knows exactly that my older son loves visual, my younger son loves tactical, and they can get educated on math in two completely different paths because they both have a personal AI. These things are happening right now, really cool stuff. And then aerospace. I think aerospace is the great uniter of our human species because it gives us the dreams, but I'll give you some examples of why it's extremely practical today. So let's go into synthetic biology. Right now, and there's got to be people here that know more about this than I do, CRISPR is curing things. Like, we're actually curing sickle cell anemia. Who remembers TLC? Who's old enough to remember TLC? And one of them died because of sickle cell anemia. You can actually cure sickle cell anemia today. How insane is that? There are forms of leukemia. Now, the way that CRISPR is working because of FDA regulations, they're going after the rarest and most horrific diseases, genetic diseases first, because you can get past it. These people are going to die if they don't get it. They're getting cured, which is insane to think about. And again, it's the idea that your biological mechanics are operating in a systematic way, and you're applying engineering principles to that. So all of this is actually happening. I am not, I should have put references on here, but it's not like anyone's going to click on it, or could click on it. We're seeing the ability to think of aging as information. There's several studies, but there's one specific doctor who I follow, Dr. David Sinclair at Harvard University, who is literally demonstrating stopping aging in rats now and mice. Stopping aging. He is about to release a lot of information I heard a couple months ago that's showing they're starting to reverse aging. And it's all based on this information theory of aging that your wetware, your software and your hardware of your body is in a digital structure that can be manipulated by us through these new tools that we're getting. I mean, if you guys, if this is new to you, your mind should be blown. If this is not new to you, then we should talk, and I love talking about this stuff. Again, at the bottom, the GTACs of your DNA are now being seen as zeros and ones. A little bit more complicated, but it's still the same theory. I think this is going to be the greatest opportunity. I am not doing anything with this. I'm just personally fascinated with it. I am 41 with a 5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and if they wait as long as I did to have kids, I'll be 70-something-ish, so I don't want to be a 70-year-old with grandkids, so I'm trying to live to 150-ish. So I'm interested personally in this stuff. Artificial intelligence. I say augmenting our human intelligence because, again, they were talking about the internet. Oh, what do we got to do with the internet? In my opinion, nothing changed in education for thousands of years until the mid-90s when the internet was here, other than Montessori, which is a different way to educate, which I personally like. And then the internet came in. The internet was literally just taking what was in our libraries and putting it into a digital format. The ability to process that information is where you start seeing AI and those concepts. Siri being a good example, now a very terrible example of what AI can do, what a very specific, narrow AI can do. Hey, do this for me, and it figures out how to actually do that. ChatGPT, who has not played with ChatGPT yet? Raise your hand. Okay, you 4 or 5 need to talk to any of the other 50 people in here. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'm doing so we have the big bank building. I wrote the project for grant money, and I wrote it, and I thought it sounded really good, and then I had ChatGPT rewrite it, and it was really good after that. So I put the content in, and ChatGPT made it sound really good, and everyone's like, oh, Mike, did you write this? This is fantastic. And I'm like, no, I wrote the content, but then I had ChatGPT write it. So I used it as a tool. I remember having conversations about, I'm kind of going off topic here, but using Word documents and word processors. They are augmentations to us. If I spend my time on how to think versus what to think, I can solve problems. If I think about the what's, it's a little more difficult. So now let's get to aerospace. What would be really cool is if on my way somewhere, I could open an app and it can tell me exactly where my parking spot is. Or what would be really cool, all of us experienced a few months ago, is before the fire starts, there is someone that's already on their way or something on the way to the location, at however remote it is in the world, that's going to put that fire out before it becomes something that covers most of our country from the sky. These applications don't yet exist, but it's because of aerospace they do. So with aerospace, let me give you the aha that really clicked for me and why Nebula is focused on bringing data centers to space, Nebula Compute specifically. 5 million telephone poles. In America, we have 5 million telephone poles. It was started in the early 1900s after we had telephones. It took 100 plus years to put up 5 million telephone poles and connect just the United States. And then in the 80s, we had cell phone towers. And now we have 500,000 cell phone towers. And that connects just the United States. And now recently we're hearing about constellations, Starlink and Kuiper and OneWeb, all these different companies are putting up 50,000 satellites. And aerospace, the aerospace industry is freaking out because there's only ever been, to this day, about 3,000 or 4,000 satellites. Now you're talking about 50,000. The huge difference is, this is an order of magnitude less infrastructure, an order of magnitude more capability, but you're serving the entire globe. You're not serving the 300 million in the United States. You're serving 8 billion people because you're leveraging space. That's one little example of how aerospace can impact. So let me also go through, all of these are underpinned by, this is a logarithmic graph. If it wasn't logarithmic, it would literally just go straight up the side and you wouldn't be able to see any delineation. Each one of these technologies that's topped in red is an S-curve, innovation. So you get a new thing in, it climbs, and then it kind of plateaus. And then something else comes in and goes in and plateaus, and we're seeing the next things coming here. The other thing to note here is the amount of computing power. You're able to now calculate almost as much as a human brain today, 2023. I couldn't find any good charts that had that information in it. But in 2023, we have enough computing power to mimic the human brain. That is insane. And in only like a decade, it's going to be able to mimic the entirety of humanity's thinking capacity. AI, synthetic biology, aerospace, all of these technologies are underpinned by this. If I were to sum up my worldview, I think energy is the wave that rises all boats. We could be in this beautiful building, perfect hospital, AI, MRIs. If it doesn't have energy, it's plastic and metal and just shelter. Computing, though, computing accelerates everything. I don't care if you're interested in real estate, agriculture, aerospace, everything is improved with more computing power. Thankfully, this is real, and this, you can see this goes back to the 1900 and will continue. It doesn't have to be Moore's law. This is the law of accelerating returns that Ray Kurzweil had identified. So why aerospace specifically? There were several other things that I was supposed to say there, but why aerospace specifically? We're moving from a mass consciousness to a cost consciousness. This is where I start to tie this back to NEPA specifically. It's $85,000 a kilogram. Back when we did the shuttle, you can see it on the slide there. $85,000 a kilogram, you are worried about every kilogram. A speck of dust is going to impact this launch. Well now, and it's not even on this chart today, now we're talking about Starship coming online at $150 per kilogram. That is insane. So think about if you are getting on a plane, if anyone's traveled internationally, having a carry-on suitcase is like as much as you can get because it's super expensive and they charge you a lot. But here, if you're flying first class, you got 70 kilograms. My wife packs everything into, or 70 pounds, but packs everything in there, stuff we don't need. We're in Brazil and there's just so much extra stuff because you're not worried about it. Take that same mentality to space. Well, you'll send up something that's going to fail. You'll send up 50,000 satellites because now it's not going to cost you tens of billions. It might cost you a few billion, but it won't cost you tens of billions. We're an order of magnitude more cost effective today than we ever have been. So what do you do with that? Think about computing power. From any problem that you guys may be thinking about for whatever business you're focused on, if you had to build a website that was interactive and it's going to cost you $50,000, you're going to be really dedicated on that. But if it's going to be free, which it is today to do a lot of the website stuff, are you really going to dedicate, a ton of time thinking, or you're just going to run experiments? You're going to iterate. You're going to figure out what works, and you're going to treat the website and that technology differently because of the overall abundance of the underlying capability that's supporting it. So, saying that creates, again, thinking of Starship. Starship is being built like a silo in Iowa. So now we're sending up something that's literally the most sophisticated, biggest rocket humans have ever done, and it's being built by welders who have been building silos in the middle of the farm or in the oil and gas industry for decades. Because we are now moving from a mass consciousness to a cost consciousness, you can send up a literal steel barrel, and it can be built by welders that you've pulled off the line for oil and gas. It does not have to be built by this JPL in LA or Pasadena, and you have to have 10 years of a doctorate. You can literally do a lot of these things with experience in other industries. And that's the unique opportunity. In NEPA, we have the ability to manufacture things. When you are able to take talent that has been developed for decades in a different industry, you're capable of applying and accelerating it to something that nobody else is seeing. I'll quote Wayne Gretzky to kind of sum up this entire idea. Someone asked Wayne Gretzky, "Why are you the greatest hockey player of all time?" And he responded, "I simply skated to where the puck will be, not to where the puck is." So if you think about what's happening in aerospace, and most people don't think about this, if you have a capability, like a really good manufacturing capability that has been used in other industries, and you can now apply that to an aerospace industry, you can take the same job that's getting paid $50,000 a year and get paid $80,000 a year. So there's a great opportunity here. One of the biggest issues we personally have is there isn't enough talent. We can't find the talent. As soon as I bought this building, we posted jobs for aerospace engineers specifically to start helping us and expand into the building. But we don't have talent yet. And this is kind of the process that we're thinking about. We're really good at manufacturing, But in order to be good at manufacturing, someone had given you the designs, the drawings on what to manufacture. They've done the engineering work on paper and computer to be able to figure that out to send to the manufacturing. And those people have been trained. Those people have been trained the principles of how to do these things. They've gotten the education. Well, those first two things don't happen here. They don't happen here yet. So what we are excited about and how we are making this all happen, and it's happening quickly. So I literally bought this building on September 30th. Grew up in Delco, an hour and a half. I've been up here once in my life. Now I'm here all the time, and we happen to have this big building. I met a bunch of people. One of the first people I met was Bree. She connected me to Ken Krepke and a bunch of other people, and I've been so grateful, and it's been gracious to meet all these supportive people. The senators, congressmen, mayors, everybody is interested in how do we bring this new vision here. And one of the other wonderful people I got to meet was Abel, who's sitting here in the front row, who's the dean, we heard him speak this morning, of business and engineering at Wilkes. So when I met with Greg, Abel, and Mike, I said, hey, we tried to hire people and there's nobody here. You guys have mechanical engineering programs. What can we do? And these guys have been amazingly supportive. So what we're looking at in how to make this happen in the top right now is me with Nebula. And then I'm on the left too with the real estate stuff because we have a physical property. But we need higher education. We need the universities to be able to recognize, well, we don't have an aerospace curriculum. How do we create an aerospace curriculum? How do we seed and solidify this? And then we need civic support. Ben Franklin, obviously Ken Krepke, amazing man. You've been just such a great support. And even my co-founder, Peter, he's like, you're just going to text Ken that? I was like, yeah, he'll respond. And he does all the time, and I appreciate it. And obviously, we're standing up an incubator, which is, I mean, again, we're talking months here. We're now looking at how do we create an aerospace lab that can be a supportive arm to what Wilkes is already doing with their Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. How can we bring the aerospace piece to that? How can I take some of my experts that are world-class people around the world and have them be adjunct professors, have them set up primer classes so that students can start engaging. My company, Nebula Compute, just got a contract from the DoD. We're figuring out how do we get some of that work done in our building on the square in this region. How do we find people and talent to start working on that? One of our other companies, Fabrics, which is software side of this, they're looking for interns right now. How do I find interns? How do I reach out through Wilkes, through other universities to help us fill these gaps that we need filled? So it's a very beautiful circular relationship where if we can inspire people, we can find some talent, we can bring our own talent here, we can work with Wilkes, work with the civic organizations, and start inspiring people to be a part of this and then give them the education they need. That's the building that we have. Bloxton Investment Group is the real estate company side of things. We need everything. This is not going to happen by ourselves. So I will stop there and give you guys a moment to ask questions. I will ask my own questions because I'm from Delco and I can do that. Ken?
What do you think it would cost to launch that incubator program, the space incubator in Wilkesburg?
125 grand. I mean, literally just to get it off the ground and get it going, 125 grand. We can put it in our building. We can bring in our own staff, so it's a very, very low dollar amount. And it's a complement to any other incubator system out there. Bree, you're running one. Obviously, Ben Franklin has 14. There isn't an aerospace one, but we can be that complement there.
When you talk about aerospace, you're speaking of software for aerospace, hardware.
Good question.
The whole, or are you speaking of specific areas of that?
If I had more time, I would break down exactly how I think we should approach it. And the high level is we need to be able to make money. We have to make money for everybody. We have to get businesses that are going to get customers that are going to make money. Revenue is the blood of all businesses. Profit isn't the purpose of it, but it is the blood. So I think there is a unique opportunity now where we can get data from space inexpensively with enough processing power here to be able to create applications. If I did a breakdown of, not here, of different tech that is utilizing aerospace. Climate tech. Everybody is affected by weather in some way, shape, or form. The amount of money that billions of dollars go into climate tech, specifically software applications using satellite data to provide to shipping companies, agricultural companies, construction companies, is huge. So I think there's a unique opportunity right now, which is one of the reasons we're starting all this, that we can create software, which is super cheap in terms of hardware, to be able to get our foot in the door and get opportunities into NEPA without having to manufacture all this stuff just yet, because we haven't gotten to that design part.
So you're looking at, let's say, areas where you could leverage what you have today to build something more in the future?
We have to, yeah. We have to use the resources. Actually, it was Mike Wood who commented to me about my activities in NEPA. He's like, so you're doing a pretty good resource assessment. And I was trying to understand what NEPA has, and you guys have a lot, and I'm super excited to be here.
I was going to say, what's your current long-term vision for the company?
So we're in phase one. So we have 6 companies right now, and this is the kind of the IT infrastructure phase. Again, I think energy and computing are the 2 greatest waves that are going to push humanity forward. And if you look at computing in space, it's the butt of a joke. It's terrible. It costs us, something you and I can buy for $500 at Best Buy or online costs $250,000 to send there, or $50,000 at the minimum. We need to change that dynamic so we can, when we connect 8 billion people, we can give them the processing. So right now we're in this IT infrastructure phase, and then I think next is the human infrastructure phase, where we can start seeing if we can leverage all the opportunities that space has for humans on Earth today. How do we do that? And then how do we move humans off Earth? So I think in the next 2030s will be more about getting humans off Earth and providing them with services extending beyond Earth. And then, I have a 700-year plan, so if you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it later.
I have a good perspective on the why. Why?
Why? Great question. The honest truth is my son. So I was fortunate enough to start my real estate business in 2015, had enough cash flow in 2017 to stop and think about what do I actually want to do with the rest of my life. And Brie, I think you heard this too. I was thinking, if I'm going to spend more than 2, 3, 4 years on something, it's going to be something big. So I started looking at billion-person problems. And then I did a soulful litmus test. Space was the thing. I have no background in space. Actually, don't tell anyone, I dropped out of college, so I don't even have an engineering degree or anything. And space was the thing. It was soulfully right. And then that was late 17. My son was born in April of 18. I was holding him when he was a month old, thinking, why doesn't he have the future he deserves? And started thinking, what does that future look like? I think my son, who's now 5, deserves the right to be able to go to the moon for several weeks and work. He deserves the ability to go to Mars if he wants for 6 months and figure something out. He deserves to start building things from the asteroid belt. So how do we make that happen? So you're thinking from that perspective and working your way all the way back. Well, first we need some IT infrastructure.